A lawyer for President Trump's transition team claims the special counsel broke the law during his Russia investigation. In a letter to Congress, Corey Langhofer says the way Robert Mueller obtained transition team emails from a government agency was unlawful, writing, quote, career staff at the General Services Administration have unlawfully produced the transition team's private materials, including privileged communications to the special counsel's office. President weighed in on Sunday night with this.
Not looking good. It's not looking good. It's quite sad to see that. So my people were very upset about it. I can't imagine there's anything on them, frankly, because, as we said, there's no collusion. There's no collusion whatsoever. But a lot of lawyers thought that was pretty sad.
The president might also say that because he personally doesn't use email. A spokesman for the special counsel issued a rare statement in response, writing, quote, when we have obtained emails in the course of our ongoing criminal investigation, we have secured either the account owner's consent or appropriate criminal process. Those are strong words, criminal, twice. Joining me now, Michael Schmidt, New York Times reporter and MSNBC contributor. Michael, I want to apologize that you did nothing fun for this holiday weekend because you were working, and I want to thank you because this is an important piece. You write, White House officials sought to play down the significance of the letter about the transition emails, insisting it was an issue for the transition team, not the West Wing. They said the president had not changed his approach to cooperating with the special counsel and that he had not discussed dismissing Mr. Mueller. Okie doke. If that's really the case, why isn't White House telling Langhofer to back off?
Well, that's the sort of interesting thing about this is that they sort of, the White House sort of wanted it to have both ways. In some ways, they really want to undercut Mueller's credibility and the fears that if Mueller really were to do something, they would be able to attack him and really be able to do some damage to his image, which has in Washington been a very strong one, a very good one by, and he's been accepted by both parties. But the other thing here is that they don't want to be seen as being too aggressive and they don't want to be seen as impeding his investigation. And they believe that if they keep a good relationship with him and they cooperate with him, that they're more likely to get the president's name cleared.
Okay, but walk me through this. If it was really a legal issue, wouldn't Langhofer send the letter to the federal court? He sent it to Congress. And by sending it to Congress, that leaves many of us with this thought they're just trying to create this charade, this idea to get many people off this Russia investigation and believing this Trump story, not to trust Mueller and that the whole investigation is tainted. That's what Kellyanne Conway and others would like us to believe.
Yeah, in Washington, if you don't want to put out a press release, your second best option is to send a letter to Capitol Hill and then to let it come out that way. And that sort of looked like what was going on here. There has been nothing legally done by the Trump transition team or the Trump campaign towards Mueller in regards to this. I guess they could go to federal court.
Then stay on that. If they've done nothing legally, if President Trump's transition team, if his lawyers have taken no legal action, why on earth would they be saying that anything done was unlawful? Wouldn't the mode be take legal action if Robert Mueller did something that was against the law?
Well, I think they would argue that they're informing Congress of what the GSA did here and that Congress should look at the laws that govern GSA to make it more clearly going forward. There had been some talk late yesterday that the Trump campaign was going to do something, was going to send a letter to Mueller and try and, adjudicate that with him. The curious part about that is that the White House itself, which has produced a lot of documents to Mueller, has not cited privilege on any of them. The White House officials have said. They say they've turned over everything. So it's unclear why the transition team would want to be arguing about privilege issues and about holding stuff back when the White House's position on this all along has been to give Mueller everything that they have.
Then quickly, did Robert Mueller's team have the transition emails when he was speaking to members of Trump's campaign team?
Oh, definitely. Our reporting has shown that these emails have been used and shown to people while they're being interviewed, and they've been asked about them. One of them, an email from December 29th that we wrote about a few weeks ago, showed just how widely it was known that Mike Flynn was going to be having this call with the Russian ambassador at the end of last year, and how important the transition team thought that the issue of sanctions were of assuring Russia. Now, those emails have been used used in these interviews, and that is how the Trump transition team, the Trump campaign, learned about this. And they said, well, hold on a second, where did you get these emails from? And then they worked backwards to figure out that the GSA had turned them over.
All right, I need my panel to weigh in on this. Eddie, Brett, Eddie, to you first. What's your take on all of this? I mean, there's been rumors for a while that President Trump would love to fire Mueller. He doesn't appear to be getting closer to firing Mueller, but certainly successful in muddying the waters here or discrediting him.
Three quick things. One, folks are scared as hell. You can see that very clearly.
Who's folks?
I think
the Trump team.
The Trump team in the West Wing. They're scared. Mueller is moving methodically and getting closer and closer, and particularly with the fact that General Flynn has flipped. So that's the first thing. Two, the second thing is that there's an ongoing effort, an ongoing propaganda effort to delegitimize the investigation. So whatever the conclusions drawn, whatever the other network is trying to do is to say those conclusions will immediately be delegitimized. And even using the language of there's a coup perhaps in America, question mark, a coup in America. That's how far they're going. And then the third issue I think is very important. All of this will lead us to a constitutional crisis. And so there are folks who are so preoccupied with greed and power that they're willing to throw our democracy into the trash bin for this. One, they're scared. Two, they're trying to delegitimize it. And three, they're leading us, they're putting us on the road to a constitutional crisis.
All right, this is not a coup, but it's certainly cuckoo. Are they making progress? I know, it's so clever on a Monday. Is the Trump team making progress delegitimizing Mueller?
Yeah.
We know now there are these two FBI agents that privately were saying disparaging things against Trump. They were taken off by Mueller, off of Mueller's team. Is Trump succeeding in hurting Mueller here?
Yes, he has, and it has infected mainstream conservatives beyond simply the kind of Fox News, Breitbart fever swaps. I mean, the idea that a guy like Robert Mueller, George W. Bush's appointee as director of the FBI, is engineering some kind of coup. The comparisons that people like Sean Hannity have made with the KGB, it's really quite extraordinary. And again, the idea is sort of straight out of the authoritarian playbook, which is to sort of seed little nuggets of misinformation, doubt, because the general hypothesis is once you have all the idiots in town on your side, I'm quoting someone here, you've practically won. And so, you know, the suggestion is that somehow Mueller is doing something that's illegitimate, that this is a fishing expedition, that there are all these questions. All of that adds up to a political case for the president to fire him. I agreed with everything that Eddie said, except for one point. I don't think we're heading towards a constitutional crisis. We're headed towards a political reckoning, where this country is really going to have to make a choice as to whether it wants to have this kind of governance.
They made a choice already. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and Bob Corker sort of getting on board. Tax reform is such a giant win. They're willing to push all of this aside.
Yeah, look, and this is finally voters are going to have some kind of determination as to, especially if Trump ends up firing Mueller, and I think the chances of that are growing almost by the day. Is our voters going to simply let this wash out? Trump has a presidential right to fire Mueller. Ultimately, the reckoning has to be political. Okay. It's not going to be constitutional.
Brett actually said, I saw it over the weekend, that he thinks Trump is going to fire Mueller and pardon Flynn and others before Christmas. If Brett is right, then it sort of makes true the Trump argument this thing is going to be done by the end of the year, by their hand, not Mueller's. Do you think Brett could be right?
I do. And then the question is, what will be the response?
I need to go on Christmas vacation, Eddie.
No, I mean, I think the question then is, what will be the response? I mean, you know, the gaggle of idiots that Brett referred to, what will they do when he actually exercises this kind of executive power? And the question is, what is the Congress's responsibility in that moment? And if things hold, given the Faustian bargain made by the leaders of the Republican Party in the Congress, they are going to sanction it. Yeah. Now, the political crisis is real. I think at that moment, perhaps, at that moment, we will be dead center in the possibility of a constitutional crisis.
The fundamental...
But you really think that's going to happen by Christmas?
Well, I placed a small bet.
Come on.
Look, the fundamental Trumpian proposition is truth is what you can get away with. The fundamental question for democracy is, do we let him get away with it?
Brilliant.
And that's at the heart of this issue.
My goodness.